to everyone. I hope you can hear me correctly. It is minute past 10 a.m. Geneva time. I think we can now begin this briefing while additional participants may be joining. Welcome to this webinar briefing on the outcomes of the 17th meeting of the POPs Review Committee. My name is Alan Wittig. I'm Program Officer and the Secretary to the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions. I will be providing you this briefing this morning, or today, and it will last roughly 25 to 30 minutes. Then it will be followed by a session where you may ask questions or provide any comments. I kindly ask you to keep your microphones muted and your cameras switched off during my briefing, and this is to guarantee a better quality of sound. So I will now begin this briefing. Okay, so the 17th meeting of the POPs Review Committee, or POPRC 17 in short, was held from 24 to 28 January 2022. It was held as a face-to-face meeting in Geneva, and during which there was also an online connection and participation that was possible. There were some pre-meetings held online on 1st and 2nd December 2021 in order to prepare some of the technical work to help proceedings during the actual meeting in January. The interim chair of the meeting was Mr. Peter Dawson from New Zealand. There were a total of 251 participants, of which 21 were POPRC members, and there were 222 observers. During the meeting, the committee adopted 10 decisions, which are listed here, on a number of chemicals or substances that were under review by the committee or were already listed, and this is sort of the additional work by the committee. They're already listed in the convention, and the committee participates in their periodic review. So these were on methoxychlor, Decoran Plus, UV328, and then the three new substances that were discussed for the first time by the committee: chlorpyrifos, long-chain PFCAs, and chlorinated paraffins. So there's a long name, but that's the short name here. And also, as I was indicating, a review on periodic review on chemicals already listed in the conventions, on decabromodiphenyl ether, on short-chain chlorinated paraffins, on the evaluation of PFOS, it's also in PFOS-F, also on an indicative list of PFOA, pre-FOA related substances, and also on the topic of long-range environmental transport. The committee during the meeting agreed also on establishing 9 intersessional working groups and agreed on their work plan. These are directly linked to the work on these chemicals. So there's there will be a lot of intersessional work between the POPRC 17 and POPRC 18. There was also a follow-up letter sent to parties and observers on the 2nd of February, summarizing the different invitations for information and comments to be submitted to these intersessional processes. You will find more information on the POPRC 17 on the website that is on the URL that is shown on the screen. So now turning to the first chemical that was being reviewed. Actually, it was on methoxychlor, and it was considered for its third review stage. So it's initially a proposal that was submitted by the European Union in 2019 for listing under the Stockholm Convention. It is an organochlorine pesticide, which is very similar to DDT. And so the committee was at its 17th meeting was considering this chemical. It was the last review stage by the committee for this chemical, and at the meeting it adopted the risk management evaluation for this chemical. And it also decided that on the basis of the risk management evaluation, and then also the risk profile that was adopted by POPRC 16, so the previous meeting, it decided to recommend to the COP to consider listing the chemical in Annex A without exemptions. So the risk management evaluation, as adopted, modified and adopted by the committee, is contained in document 13 add 1, which will be made available shortly on the website. Also here, just to note that this chemical will be, proposal for listing will be, recommendation for listing will be considered by COP9 in 2023, as it cannot make it to COP10, the face-to-face COP10 in June. So it'll be in 2023 at COP11. The second chemical being assessed and reviewed by the committee is Decorum Plus. So this was a proposal initially submitted by Norway in 2019 for listing in the Stockholm Convention. It is a flame retardant used in several applications as shown here on the screen. Just to take a very quick step back, so POPRC 16, so first of all, POPRC 17 considered and adopted the risk profile for Decorum Plus, but just to note that actually it's the second time the committee was considering the risk profile for this chemical. Indeed, this risk profile was considered already by POPRC 16 in 2021. But the committee then decided to defer its decision on adopting the risk profile, as it was not able to reach agreements that the information on adverse effects was sufficient to reach a conclusion. And at that time, it agreed to establish some intersessional work on this to provide further information on the adverse effects. So the committee was indeed considering this risk profile updated for the second time, and it adopted the risk profile for this chemical. It decided that the chemical is likely, as a result of its long-range environmental transport, to lead to significant adverse human health and or environmental effects, such as global action is warranted. The risk profile as adopted by the committee is contained in document 3 at 2, and it will be made available shortly on the website. The committee established an intersessional working group to prepare the draft risk management evaluation, including an analysis of possible control measures for this chemical. So this is really bringing the chemical to the third review stage by the committee, but it also agreed to explore any further information on the adverse effects, and if appropriate, to revise the risk profile for consideration by the next POPRC meeting, POPRC 18. So there was linked to this intersessional process an invitation to parties and observers to submit information on the socioeconomic considerations as specified in Annex F to the Convention, as well as additional information related to the adverse effects of Decorum Plus, and this is to be submitted by 14th of March 2022. Now turning to the third chemical, which is under review by the committee. This is UV328. This is a proposal that was actually submitted by Switzerland in 2020, but was considered for the first time by the committee in 2021. So it's a proposal for listing under the Stockholm Convention. It's a UV absorber used in many products, as indicated here on the screen. So at POPRC 17, the committee adopted the risk profile for this chemical and decided that the chemical is likely, as a result of its long-range environmental transport, to lead to significant adverse human health and or environmental effects, such as global action is warranted. So this risk profile, as adopted by the committee, is contained in the document 13 add 3, which will be also made available shortly on the website, and all of these will be in the 6 languages of the UN. The committee also established an intersessional working group to prepare draft risk management evaluation, bringing this chemical to the third review stage by the committee, and this will be including analysis of possible control measures. The committee also invited parties and observers to submit information on socioeconomic considerations as specified in the Annex F to the convention before 14th of March this year. Now, as I briefly indicated in my first slide, the committee was also considering 3 new proposals for listing submitted by parties. And the first one is on chlorpyrifos. So this is a proposal that's been submitted by the European Union for listing under the Stockholm Convention. It belongs to a group of organophosphate pesticides, and here you have a bit more detail on its applications. So at POPRC 17, the committee decided that the proposal did fulfill the screening criteria set out in the Annex D to the convention. So this was really the first time the committee was considering this chemical. And the committee decided to establish an intersessional working group to review the proposal further and to prepare a draft risk profile for this chemical. So this would be now moving the chemical to the second review stage to be considered by POPRC 18. It also invited parties and observers to submit Annex E information before 14 March 2022. Now turning to the second new proposal being considered by the committee at POPRC 17, and this is on the chlorinated paraffins with carbon chain lengths in the range of C14 to C15 and chlorination levels at or exceeding 45% chlorine by weight. So this is a proposal that has been submitted by the United Kingdom for listing under the Stockholm Convention. The chemicals has several applications, such as secondary plasticizers, flame retardants, and as you see here, some others here on the screen. The committee decided that the proposal met the criteria in Annex D to the convention with certainty for chlorinated paraffins with carbon chain length of C14 and chlorination levels at or exceeding 45% chlorine by weight. The committee also noted that the information related to the screening criteria on bioaccumulation for chlorinated paraffins with carbon chain length in the range of C15 to 17 was less certain, and it decided that more detail on bioaccumulation data should be included in the draft risk profile. So this will be as part of the intersessional process in preparation for POPRC 18. So the committee for this chemicals also established an intersessional working group to review the proposal further and to prepare the draft risk profile. And much like the previous chemical, it invited parties and observers to submit the Annex E information before 14 March 2022. Now turning to the third new substance being considered by the Committee for Listing under the Stockholm Convention. It is long-chain perfluorocarboxylic acids, their salts and related compounds. We could say long-chain PFCAs in short. So this is a proposal submitted by Canada for listing under the Stockholm Convention. It is a chemical used for sulfactant applications and the production of fluoropolymers, for instance. It's also maybe used in electronic articles and medical devices, and there are a number of other applications that are listed here on the screen. So the committee decided that the proposal by Canada fulfilled the screening criteria in Annex D to the convention, and according to the usual process, it established an intersessional working group to review the proposal further and to prepare a draft risk profile, bringing this chemical to the second review stage by the committee. The committee also invited parties and observers to submit Annex E information before 14 March 2022. Now, as I mentioned also at the start of the briefing, the committee undertakes other work also on substances that are already listed in the convention according to determined review cycles that are determined by the COP. The first is on the review of information related to specific exemptions for decabromodiphenyl ether and short-chain chlorinated paraffins. So these two chemicals were listed at COP8 and Annex A with specific exemptions, and the COP8 also adopted a process for the review of the information related to specific exemptions. This was in 2017 and contained in decisions 813 and 8/14. So as part of this process, POPRC 16 in 2021 decided to submit the reports on the review information related to specific exemptions for those chemicals, and these reports are contained in the POPRC 17 documents in POPRC 16 documents in 17 and in 18. This matter will be discussed at the face-to-face segment of the COP in June 2022, but the recommendation was really to collect further specific information and update these reports for consideration by COP11 in 2023. So in order to update the reports for consideration by the Stockholm COP11, the committee established an intersessional working group for the review of the information related to the specific exemptions for these chemicals. And the committee also invited parties and observers to provide relevant information by 15th of March 2022. Another item that was considered on its technical work was related to the process for the evaluation of PFAS salts and PFAS-F, which is listed in Annex B to the Convention with a number of acceptable purposes and specific exemptions. There was a process adopted by the COP for the evaluation, for the periodic evaluation of PFAS salts and PFAS-F, which is contained in the COP decisions SC/6/4, which was updated by the decision SC7/5. According to this process, COP9 undertook the second evaluation for this chemical, and it actually that COP agreed on some modifications to the entries for the acceptable purposes and specific exemptions for its use. COP11 will be undertaking the third evaluation of these chemicals, of this listing, of this entry in the convention. And according to this process, so it's the start of the next sort of cycle for this process, and the committee agreed on the terms of reference for the assessment of alternatives to PFAS salts and PFAS-F. And it established an intersessional working group to undertake the activities according to that evaluation process adopted by the COP. POPRC 17 also invited parties and observers to provide information on the alternatives to PFAS before 15 March 2022. Relating to the indicative list of substances covered by the listing of P4 salts and P4 related compounds. So this is a periodic, sort of a regular work undertaken on this list of substances. So the substances are P4 was listed in Annex A with specific exemptions at COP9 by decision 9/12. And by decision 9/13, parties and others were invited to provide further information regarding the identification of substances covered by this listing. And this is really to assist and help and support parties in the implementation and obligations linked to this listing. COP9 requested the Secretariat, as part of this process, to compile, in consultation with POPRC, the information submitted and to establish an indicative list for these substances. As part of this process, POPRC 16 reviewed the compilation of information submitted by parties and others, and it requested the Secretariat to prepare a further revised draft indicative list, taking into account the comments received from members, from parties, and from observers. So this updated indicative list was contained, is currently contained in information document 14. That was the one that was considered by POPRC 17. So POPRC 17 reviewed this list and provided further comments to it. The revised version of this document will also be very shortly made available on the website. It'll be in information document 14 Rev 1. The committee also recommended that the COP considers requesting the Secretariat in consultation with the committee to further update this indicative list, taking into account information from parties and observers, and to make the updated indicative list available on the convention website. So this is really to be seen as a regular periodic work, and this it's like a living document, and it will be updated regularly as needed on the convention website. The last item of its technical work at POPRC 17 was on the long-range environmental transport. So this came up at the discussion at POPRC 16 in 2021, where the committee established an intersessional working group to prepare draft guidance for the committee on its consideration of long-range environmental transport to help members in their future evaluations of proposals for listing of chemicals. And this draft guidance was contained in information document 15. So POPRC 17 didn't actually do further work on the guidance itself. It agreed that it was to be considered as a draft that required further intersessional work intersessionally. So it requested the intersessional working group on this matter, which was established by the last meeting of the committee, to continue further developing this draft document for its consideration by POPRC 18. It should be noted that during the meeting, also the committee agreed to not call it no longer call it a draft guidance, but a draft document, as it could be as the word guidance, the use of the word guidance could be interpreted as a legal text, and this would therefore mean that it would be something to be considered by the COPs. So given the nature of the content of the document, it was agreed to call it from this point forth the draft document on long-range environmental transport. So in terms of now the follow-up to POPRC 17, so the meeting report will be available in document 13 shortly, first of all in English, and it's going to then be translated into the 6 UN languages. So this will be posted shortly on the convention website. I mentioned already several times in the briefing that there was a letter sent out on 2nd of February summarizing the different calls for information and comments for parties and observers. And there are basically two groups of deadlines, which are roughly basically the same. The first deadline is 14 March 2022, and this is for providing information on the risk management evaluation, so the Annex F information for Decran Plus and UV328, and also, as I had mentioned, related to Decran Plus, any additional information on adverse effects on Decran Plus. Also for 14 March, parties and observers are invited to submit information to feed into the process for preparing the risk profile. So it's the Annex E information on the three proposals that were considered for the first time by the committee on chloropyrifos, chlorinated paraffins, and long-chain PFCAs. And then according to the 15 March deadline, there's an invitation for information related to the specific exemptions on DecaBDE and short-chain chlorinated paraffins, and also an invitation for information on alternatives to PFAS. It's also in PFAS-F and related chemicals. So this is really to feed into the different intersessional processes, intersessional work. So the deadlines are indeed quite short. But it is really important that this information does reach the Secretariat, and through the Secretariat, the intersessional working groups working on all of this intersessional work. Finally, the committee also agreed to the tentative dates and venue for POPRC 18. So the tentative dates are 26 to 30 September 2022. so later this year, in Rome, back to back with the Chemical Review Committee 18 of the Rotterdam Convention. This is tentative, obviously, because of we have to assess the situation as we get closer to the dates in relation to the evolution of the pandemic and so on. So both the dates and venue are still to be confirmed, but this is what we're aiming for and what the committee has agreed to. So this now concludes my briefing. I thank you very much for your attention, and now you have an opportunity